Well, we're on to the next chapter. That next chapter takes us all the way to the Twin Island Republic of Trinidad and Tobago, where we'll meet a journalist who's decided now to foray into not just writing news stories and features, but writing and creating stories about who? We'll tell you now in An Unending Search, but for what? The author himself is Ryan Bachu, a journalist with Guardian Media, and I see you often, Ryan. Welcome. Good morning. I see you often on CNC3. I also see you receiving many media awards in the Caribbean Broadcasting Union Awards. Good to meet you.
Pearson, it's an honor to be on your program. Thank you very much for having me.
You're very welcome. Now here it is. You've decided not just to present your news as a news report or to write the news, but to write a story. An Unending Search. What is that about?
So actually, I started this book even before I was a journalist, Pearson. I started this book in 2009 and I became a journalist in 2010. And for the next 5 years, between 2009 and 2014, I wrote the first draft of the book, and then I put the book down for a little bit, mainly because I didn't have money or enough money to go through the publishing process, nor even have it copy edited. And honestly, I didn't think it was good enough either, Pearson. I had just written out of a love for literature, and I didn't think it was good enough to publish anyways. I left it there. Picked it back up 10 years later, and I asked an editor to just have a look. She said it was too long. We needed to cut the book in half, and we also needed to rework a lot of it. And so I spent all of 2024 reworking the book, rewriting. It felt like writing an entirely second book. That one itself was a journey, Pearson, because you being in the media fraternity as you have been for such a long time, you would know that you mature as you get older. And
yes.
I could tell the distinct difference in my writing 10 years apart. And so I set about, really rewriting the story in many ways, recharacterizing the plot as well. And it's about the journey of a young teenage Indian boy. The book is set in rural South Trinidad back in the late 1970s. Trinidad and Tobago very much still feeling the remnants of the Black Power movement marches that took place in the early 70s. And this young Indian boy works in the cane fields with Uncle Sundar, who is a village elder. And being the elder that he is, and being how elders were back then, Uncle Sundar instills in this young boy that the Williams government is racist, that there is systemic racism in Trinidad. You should try to find a way out to the promised land, what continues to be the promised land of New York and London, and you'll find better jobs, you'll find a better quality of life there. And so the novel takes the reader on a journey of this young teenage boy trying to find himself out of Trinidad and into this promised land that has always been New York and London for Caribbean people. And along the way, it confronts the themes of racism, of classism, and it's also a story of self-discovery, Pearson.
You're also from the south of Trinidad. The book is based on a young boy from south of Trinidad. How much of this parallels with who Ryan is?
I would say none of it. It's completely fiction, and I've had that question a couple of times. But what I would say, Pearson, is that it's undeniable that the experiences and the influences of my village that I grew up in, of the town that I grew up in, and ultimately traveling across my country would have influenced, and particularly the Caribbean. I must say the Caribbean, being to places like Barbados, being to places like Grenada. Yes, it did have a strong influence on the West Indian architecture of this book. Is it a biography that's hidden in the shadow of a fiction? Not really.
Maybe time will reveal. But certainly,
Perhaps.
The bug never left you. The bug was buzzing in your ear all the while. Get back to writing, Ryan. Get back to writing. And so, are you feeling conflicted now with journalism or just simply writing fiction?
I actually think it complements the other, to be honest. I was making the point that writing and journalism, as you understand it, it's based in fact, and everything has to be factual and nothing but facts. You can't put anything in there that's speculation, that be rumored, that might be right, but you're not sure. And then writing fiction takes me into this different world, Pearson. It takes me into it. almost allows me to be someone that that I can't be in journalism, and so it allows me an escape from the hard news of the Caribbean region, the hard news of the international scene, and really gives me an opportunity to dive into a fictional world, an imaginary world that doesn't exist, but you can bring that to life on paper, and you can bring that to life for your readers. And I think that's what I enjoyed most about writing this book. It was the most difficult thing that I did. However, when I was finished with a very long day of work in journalism, when I did most of my writing at night between 9 p.m. and 1 a.m., I was able to take my head away from journalism for that few hours and
Yes.
dive into a world that didn't exist.
Yes, yes. But you tackle some very serious themes, so racism and injustice and the like, and the desire to not just better oneself, but to see the world as one's stage. Talk to me a little bit about the influence that you would want when we pick up the book to turn the pages to read, the kind of influence on the human condition for the Caribbean boy who chooses to read this book. What do you want them to do and to see as?
I want them to see parallels within their own lives, because at the end of the day, we're all in search of something, especially young people these days, with the digital era that they live in and what they see on social media. They're in search of what other people have already attained or are continuing to attain, the success that people are having, where people are living, the places they are living in. Everybody is in search of something, and this book draws parallels to that something through this teenaged Indian boy looking for a better life for himself, looking for better job opportunities, which is very synonymous with a lot of the lives that we are living here in the Caribbean region. A lot of people are looking for better jobs. A lot of people are looking for more stable livelihoods that they can spend their lives. And sometimes that's not here in the Caribbean. Sometimes that's not here in Bridgetown. That's not there in Port of Spain or Georgetown. And so the promised land for a lot of us, much like during the Windrush movement, was that London. We have our sights set on the big cities of London and New York, and so what I would like people to get out of the book is, yes, you can spend much of your life chasing this promised land for this better life and this better job, and ultimately, I don't want to sell what the book has in it, sell out what the book has in it, but ultimately, you could not achieve that. Ultimately, it doesn't have to work out. Ultimately, you could end back up right where you started, and that's essentially, the lesson of this West Indian fiction.
Right. Then you had to market it. It's all done. You've got your first copy. You feel proud with yourself, but you now have to expose yourself and your work to the rest of the Trinidad and Tobago and the rest of the world. How was that experience for you doing the media jaunt so that you are telling people about your work? How was that for you?
So, Pearson, that's such a good question, because, I thought that writing the book, when I finished the last chapter on April 1st, 2024, I thought that was it. You finished writing a book and the book is done. Far from it. Writing a book is only 60% of the work. You have to publish the book, which is another 30%. That is such a difficult task, publishing your book, especially if you are self-publishing. And then you have to, as you said, you have to market your book to a local, regional, and international audience. And honestly, I'm not going to sit on your program and pretend that I'm a professional. I've been far from it. I've been depending on colleagues like yourself from around the
Yes.
region to help me, which you guys have been so gracious in doing. And I've been learning along the way, because this is my first novel, and I've been learning a lot as I go along.
Are there thoughts on the second novel already?
I don't know if I have a second novel in me. What I think is that, writing a book has been the hardest thing that I have ever done in my life. I've done some challenging things. This has been the absolute hardest thing that I have ever done in my life. And I don't know. I really don't know if I have a second novel in me. I never saw myself as an author. I mean, I love reading Lamming. I love reading Naipaul. I love reading Walcott. But I never really truly understood what went into writing books like In the Castle of My Skin until I sat down writing my own novel.
Right.
And so, I also think, Pearson, that writing a novel is a very personal, private journey. You don't
Mm-hmm.
want to go about telling people, I'm writing a book, I'm writing a book, and
Yes,
then
yes,
suddenly you're distracted because people are always asking you, how far along are you? When can can I
yes.
get a first read? When is it going to be published? When is it going to be available? It's a really private journey, one that allows you to, you know, go through this journey by yourself, and then ultimately at the end you can release it to the public. But I don't think when you're writing a novel or any book really that you
Mm-hmm.
need the distractions of people constantly asking questions.
Now we're really curious about this book. And so it's an unending search. How can we get copies of it here in Barbados? Is it online? Do we get hard copies as well?
Yeah, looking at the Barbadian market for books is such an important market, and I'm really hoping Barbados is set to host Carifesta later this year in
Yes,
August,
August.
as well as and there's the very famous Barbados BIM Literary and Book Festival that is also very important on
Mm-hmm.
on an annual basis. So those markets I'm definitely going to tap into. I'm also looking at Amazon.com, where
Right.
regional and international readers of interest can tap into the book as well. But I'll be honest with you, Pearson, it is my intention to travel to Barbados to really tap into the Barbadian market because it's such an important market for books. It's such an
Mm-hmm.
interesting market for book lovers there that it absolutely cannot, it's unavoidable really for any novelist.
So what we will say to you is hurry up and come home to us with the books. Bring them all. We can't wait to see them, and we can't wait to read the book, really, because I'm fascinated to see, because I've seen your work, and now I want to read your fictional mind to see what's in An Unending Search, the story of this young boy who has a dream. And as you said, maybe the dream takes him right back to where he began, because sometimes in dreaming, we didn't realize we had all that it took to get us where we needed to be here. We thought it was elsewhere, but perhaps that's what Tar discovered in his journey. I'm not telling you the book because I haven't read it yet, but certainly it's going to be a great read. And so Barbadian readers, lovers of literature, are anxious to have a copy of it. And you're right, because next weekend, well, actually this weekend and the following weekend, we're having what we call a literary bus tour. We're going to be, literary artists are going to be reading from their novels. They're taking a bus tour, they're making stops and that kind of thing. So we're showcasing different authors, telling different stories at different points along the tour, engaging with the scene and the different sights and sounds. And then you're having a boutique, a book-tique at the end of it all, where those books are up for sale in that little boutique. So it's going to be fantastic. So can't wait to welcome you to Barbados. And when you come check us out here at the CBC.
Absolutely looking forward to it. And thank you so much to yourself as well as your crew, including Nadia Pearson. Really appreciate it.
You're very welcome. Ryan Bachu, journalist with Guardian Media there in Trinidad and Tobago and with the NC3 television news department there as well. Thank you so much. All the best with this first, perhaps the first of a series of endeavors from you of book writing. So thank you very much, Ryan.
Thanks again, Pearson. Appreciate it. Have a good
You're
day.
welcome. You're welcome. Ryan Bachu from Trinidad and Tobago, a journalist. The book is called An Unending Search. Search for what? Turn the pages when he comes and brings the book to you, and you will find out for yourself.